Hello and welcome to the review slash unveiling of my Feliner from the Thundercats. This was a spaceship they used. I think it debuted in season 2, the beginning of the movie. But it is a very large craft. It's their largest craft, and here also you can see it's a very large craft. One minifigure. So yeah, it's definitely big. It might be the biggest, as far as vehicle goes, biggest MOC I've ever done. I'm pretty happy with it. It's really hard to get this thing in frame. It really is huge. But Alright, so a little closer up view. It's pretty plain up top. But if you know what I'm talking about, the craft is kind of plain, and it has a different look from episode to episode, sometimes even shot to shot. There were some definite animation issues when it came to the Thundercats, but the one thing that is not quite accurate is these secondary cockpits, if you will. They're more of a bubble the whole way, and as far as I know, Lego doesn't make a trans black or a trans clear piece that does that. I'm not sure if they make a piece at all that does that. So I kind of made it work. It's the best way to put it. I did add this really cool feature where to aim the cannons a little bit remotely. I mean, they'll just do it on their own too. I had to add some Technic gears in there anyway for resistance, so they'd kind of hold their spot. So I went ahead and just put that lever on there. Kind of makes it cool, has a little bit of play value. If you are flying it, whooshing it around in your hand, you're gonna be more towards the back anyway. So instead of having to reach all the way across the fuselage, you can, aim the cannons that way if you're gonna play with it. It was not built for play, it was built for display. But so we'll just start here at the front. Main cabin. It's a little bit small in there. This is not, like I say, it's not really built for play. I had to use some interesting techniques. It's one of those 1x6x3 slope windscreens to get that angle there. I would have liked to have a transparent top here. I didn't have the pieces. I'm not sure if they make either of those pieces in trans black, but just have a little bit of the fangs, a little cat look detail in the ears, obviously, in the front. Not a whole lot going on there in the cockpit. Most of the cool stuff, the challenging stuff to build, is further back. So, as I showed you there with the cannons, you can actually get a figure. If I can pop this off, one of them will come off for me. There we go. You can get a figure in the upper seat there. Not much cabin detail. Again, with the animation, when they were inside the craft, the whole thing was like open on the inside, like any normal starship. But then all the outside views, it was like this, where there doesn't really show anywhere where you could walk from one area to the other. But I mean, it was a children's show, so hard to be too picky. Back here, though, this is my I don't want to say coup de grace, 'cause I think I can do better in the future. But these engine pods were a pain in the butt to nail down. So this entire build was trial and error, but these engine pods especially. I'll just pull one off for you here. Oops. And there goes a piece. Oh yeah, I forgot. I locked them in on the top with that. So, as you can see, Technic pins hold it in place. This is studs on the side, studs on the bottom, studs on the side, studs on the top, and studs on the back. The only thing that doesn't have studs is where it connects to the fuselage. This build, this portion took me quite a while. I used the big fender arches here to get that rounded look. This is just a tile with studs and then the grill pieces over. But let's see if I can pop one of these off to give you a side view. Yeah. So there's basically what I did. There's a Technic axle running it through here. I didn't have any of the going the other way those to really lock that in up front. Otherwise I probably could have skipped the Technic axle, but I didn't, so but once it's all assembled, and especially once it's on here, it actually is a pretty sturdy piece. A little bit challenging to get it back in there. Maybe not. I lied. And then here on the top, I did actually have a little bit of orange showing through here on the top, which kind of bugged me. I was a real shortage of white pieces. This took the bulk of them. Between that and I already used a lot of white on the Thunderstrike, but they do use orange and in their vehicles, Thundercats. The red and white, the orange doesn't actually look terrible there. It does maybe look like it works as an accent, so I'm not too terribly upset. The tail, I don't know if you want to call it tail fin, it's pretty bulky. There's no control surfaces, but that's how it was in the show, so it's a pretty accurate representation of the tail, in my opinion. That was somewhat more simple. I originally thought it was going to be harder, but I just have one of those the notched hinge pieces, and then with that negative slope there, it just kind of falls down in the right position. This other side is the identical mirror, so they mirror each other. The most challenging part, at least to start with, aside from those engine pods, I was kind of in the groove at that point, were these legs. It took me a full day to come up with one leg. After you came up with one, it was easier to mirror it, but this is the 5th iteration, I believe, of the leg. Again, where you needed studs and to get the shape and everything, because these wings absolutely have to fold. And I mean, I guess I could have done, reverse studs on the bottom for these wings. Still doesn't really change this aspect much. So that's just a clad inside. There's some Technic pieces, and if you can see in here, just barely, there's one of those Technic elbows that runs down into here. There's more Technic beams. Runs down into there. More Technic beams. On the inside, and I might have to pick this up to show you. that's all locked in with that sideways hinge piece. So but those run down. Some greebling just to kind of cover up the angles. But it's a pretty big landing gear. The other side is, like I say, an identical mirror. And back here, the rear one was also a challenge. It was kind of nice because up until I built the engine pods and moved the center of gravity back, it would stand up just on these front two. So I got to do most of the build before I even had to screw around with this back. But if you can see, there's some small greebling there, but this is just a locking type of thing. Fold it in and then we can go up and down, back, and it's locked into place. And then here, this ratchets down, and once the front gear are closed up, this is longer, this holds them in place, and then these studs here go into one of the main beams up top. So I'm actually pretty proud of how that back turned out. I do kind of wish I had able to clean this up a little more, but with this moving, you don't have the clearance. I guess I could have done just the single, the 1x2 by 1x2 by 3 Technic single hole piece there, but I really kind of wanted the rigidity because this is sandwiched to a longer Technic beam on the inside of that. And I mean, it is taking quite a bit of the load now with these engine pods. Most of the weight is, in this section. So you have a whole lot of weight there. The wings are not on by much, and I apologize for how cruddy that looks. I just ran out of white. I'm probably gonna do an order and do like it looks on the front side, identical here on the back. It'll still be studs out, but it'll look a lot cleaner. But as far as how the build looks, I mean, it's gonna be the same build. The wings, the whole front is only held on by these on both sides, but it works because when it's in landed, the entire weight is on where it has the meat, what's holding it on. I tried to build a stand where it could be look like it was in flight instead of on its gear for display, but then the wings are turned down and a lot of the weight was shifted to where it was pushing these out of these holes, while here when it's a completely vertical load, that's not a problem, and that's a really strong connection, even though it's just these little two things there. I wanted to do like on Krennic's shuttle with the two ball joints, and then outside of that another Technic assembly with some resistance, but I don't have the pieces. Again, shocker. I have a lot of pieces, but never what you need, right? But come back, take one final peek. I will be having this on Lego Ideas, so if you do like it, or if you have any improvements I could make, or know of pieces that I don't know of to improve this a little bit to get more of that arched look, go ahead and chime in, let me know. Alright, now we have the whole family together, and the Feliner did really turn out about the right scale. The Thunderstrike is a little bit too small. Really hard to get around that, to get the main body right. Granted, if you worked at Lego and had infinite access to any piece and any color molding you wanted, maybe that'd be a different story. But she is a whopper. And the see with the minifig there, the Thunder Tank is no shrimp, and the Feliner does dwarf it. I think that gives you a much better view into the scale from the top there. And yeah, it's huge. It's a big set. Now to scale it with something else we're all familiar with, there it is alongside the space shuttle, complete with the booster rockets and the fuel tank, which is by any standard a very large set scale wise. I mean, it's not Star Destroyer big, but it's a big city set compared to that, which is just at least double, I think, double the size. Especially with the wings down, it's definitely twice as wide. It's not twice as long, but it's close. It's probably 1.5. So, yes, very big set. I'm very impressed, very proud with it. And like I say, it's a very needed member of the family. I have 2 more craft to go. Hopefully get those done in the near future. But I like it. Very pleased. It is absolutely my favorite MOC to date, even more than the Thunder Tank. I think just because it was more challenging to get the look right, especially when there's just such poor pictures to go off of. But yeah, Thundercats ho! You want to whoosh it around a little bit? Whoosh. Alright, and until next time. Happy building.
Happy building.